One of the best things about discussing culture is usually there's no controversy. Everybody agrees to the fact that culture is important. Everybody says culture has no boundaries. We need to encourage culture. We need to work on culture. But yet, if you look at governments across the world, culture is given very low priority, especially in India. I don't want to say anything controversial. This is something which we have not considered as an important tool of not only our nation building, but also diplomacy. Both of these are important tools. Even in the foreign service, an Ambassador Rajan is senior enough to have seen much having passed built under the water. He will also tell you, even though there are a lot of us who believe that cultural diplomacy is important, the importance that we attach ourselves to cultural diplomacy is not so much. But the time is changing. Today, like we all discussed, post-pandemic, things are going to change. Post-pandemic, things are going to be a different world. People have realized that they're mortal. There was a certain idea among all of us that we are immortal, that we are not, nothing is going to happen to us. We as humanity have conquered a lot of things, that we are still, nothing is going to happen to us. But this has shown how humanity can be shaken to its roots. When international travel stopped, the world came to a standstill. I would never have thought that such a situation would ever arrive in one's lifetime, but it arrived. And so it has shaken people to the roots, has made people realize that we need to connect with each other. Now, online people started doing things because everybody wanted a connect. And this connect is something which has to happen. Because culture knows no boundaries. There is nothing which stops us. I'm just coming yesterday from a press conference where we talked about holding a Roma conference in Europe, the first ever global international Roma conference. And we realized that 30 million Romas in Europe who trace their origin to India, all of them, and in fact many of them are demanding that you issue us OCI card because we are people of Indian origin. Well, that's a different matter, we can look at that differently. But the whole idea is their culture still resembles what was India. And so this is something which I've always felt. For example, right now, after what happened in Afghanistan. After Afghanistan happened, we are not speaking on, we are talking on many issues. The main issue we are talking about is the students who come to study in India. Right now we have 2,500 students studying in India. We have trained and taught about 14,000 students in the last 10 years. Now what are you looking at? Whenever Afghanistan comes back to normal, who are the people who are going to build a relationship between India and Afghanistan? Are these people who have studied in India? Are the people trained, studied, educated in India who are going to build the building blocks of the future of Afghanistan? Because they are the ones educated in Afghanistan. They are going to man the hospitals, the education centers, the financial centers, everything are going to be manned by these people. So the whole idea of soft power is something which is not given the importance it should be. People talk about it, it's not given the importance, but it is more and more coming into vogue. People are understanding how effective it is, and more so in the relationship between Europe and India. Because all of us have spoken about it, and the main thing is, like we talk about the diversity. What is Europe today is what India has always been. A conglomeration of multiple ethnicities, multiple religions, multiple castes, multiple states, multiple areas, languages. Look at it. Even today we are bigger than what European Union is. And like my good friend Ruben said, and I had mentioned it in another conference beforehand, Europe actually has a lot to learn from us, and we have to learn a lot to learn from them, because they've done a great job in putting their countries together. Today, nobody questions the European Union. You may question other conglomerations. You can question ASEAN, whether it's really getting together or not. It's divided by big powers, etc. The African Union, COMESA, all of this. But European Union, nobody questions because they look at, let's forget UK for the time being, they left Brexit. But the whole point is, there is a feeling that...
Because we feel that after COVID, there's a lot of demand by Indian students to go abroad. We feel it at this embassy. It's hard to handle the requests for student residence permits. But we have one great database for all Austrian grants and scholarships. It is all collected on one website. I keep in India today, and out came around 300 possible scholarships. Not only
professors, exchange of professors is the most important. When you do exchange of professors, you also need internationalization of curriculum development across. So the whole gamut of activities that is academic, chairs, curriculum development, assessment techniques, student exchanges, teacher training exchanges, this is something which is very easily doable. This is all low-hanging fruit, which you can work on immediately because this is what European Union wants, this is what we want. And this can be done immediately. So this is one area which you really want to work hard. We've already started talking with the different countries, but with the European Union as a whole, we still need to get forward on that. The second is on conservation of art and conservation of monuments and museums. Now, this is something Europe has done wonderful work, especially conservation of art. When you look at paintings, art, sculpture, in museums, the kind of way they have designed their museums. I mean, the top museums in the world are all in Europe, whether it's the Hermitage, the Prado, the Louvre, or the British Museum, or any of them. They are some of the top museums in the world. The way they manage museology is a huge thing. And this is something which we can collaborate in a big way because we need it more than anything else. Our conservation of art is amazing. And the art market, I mean the Venice Biennale or the Artissima or the art market. The art market today in the world is about $85 to $90 billion every year. India does about 250, and the India-Europe channel does about some 40-50 million only. I mean, you're looking at a huge world market which is not being tapped, even though there is huge potential between India and Europe. So the conservation of art, art market, conservation of monuments, museums, galleries, all these are a huge kind of thing which Europe is good at, which India is aspiring to become. So cooperation in this would really be wonderful. Third one is of course cultural institutions. The kind of programming we do. Films, audiovisual, films, TV, OTT platforms on which today, basically because of the pandemic, large number of Indians are being able to watch Spanish TV series, French TV series, all translated, but you never would have watched it. I mean, they're also watching Korean, of course, K-pop and other things. But the whole idea is, suddenly the world has opened up to the average Indian. The average Indian could not see so many of, because the language used to be barrier. They used to only watch Hollywood and Hollywood-based or British movies to the maximum. But suddenly you're watching German movies in English, you're watching French movies, you're watching Spanish movies, because of the pandemic. And it's time to build on that. And also cultural collaboration. Collaboration across genres. What has been happening up till now is we've been sending our cultural troops to perform in Europe and getting European cultural troops to perform here. Never have we created new genres where both work together. For example, Kathak and flamenco. For example, chamber music with Bharatanatyam. There are so many different collaborations. So right now what we have put in place is a new system. I've just signed with the Swiss that we're going to have groups from India and Switzerland work together, music groups, work together on new forms of music. They're going to train for 6 months together and then produce concerts which we are going to take across. Similarly, we're doing it in France, we're doing it in Spain, we're doing it in Germany. There's a whole gamut of activities you can do. These are things we are working on. I don't bore you, but the last one, which is the most important one, is democracy. At the end of it, Europe is about democracy, human rights, rule of law. And India is also about democracy, human rights, rule of law. If you look at the region across the world, no two regions have so much similarity in these aspects as India and European Union. And yet, we're not doing much on democratic collaboration. Where are the democratic summits happening? Where are the discussions happening? How to share best practices? Sometimes in India we feel the European Union preaches too much while not practicing what it preaches. It says we support democracy, but yet it supports countries which are not democratic and doesn't support countries which are democratic. So how do you look at that? The European Union needs to wake up to the fact that if it has to preach what it practices, it should do exactly that, support democracies across the world. And also learn. It's not that India just has to learn. We also have a lot to teach. There are institutions all across Europe, the International Democratic Electoral Alliance in Sweden. There are large amount of institutions which do work on democracy. Why are we not putting together these institutions to discuss? Why is it always about that we have to preach about what you should do in human rights and what you should do, rather than talk together, what can we do together? So democracy is at the root, because that's where the culture really comes down, because it's only in an open, free society that culture can evolve and become an agent for good. In culture, if you've noticed, in all very strongly authoritarian and closed societies, culture is put a lot of emphasis on. When the Soviet Union was Soviet Union, cultural troops used to go across the world. China does culture in a major way. But people do not accept it, that they enjoy the show, but they don't change the attitudes about the country because they know that it comes from a culture which is not democratic. Whereas a democratic culture gives you more freedom to think, more acceptance, more legitimacy. And that's what we need to work together. I am not going to go on and on because I can go on many issues, but my whole idea is we have a lot that we can do between European Union and India, and we at ICCR have started a lot of things. We are now doing a big event in which for the 75th anniversary of India's independence, we are calling in politicians, young aspiring politicians from 75 democracies to come to India to see what it is, to discuss how and create a Gen Next democratic network so that the politicians of tomorrow, the future of tomorrow, how can they interact with each other, members of parliament. One last thing which I wanted to say, this is something very close to my heart and I forgot about it, is languages. You know, there is this feeling in India that we should promote our languages, which we are doing. Hindi, Sanskrit, Tamil, other languages we are doing. But I believe India will prosper if it learns, if its people learn foreign languages more than teaching others how to do. So if out of the 1.2 billion, 1.3 billion Indians, if you have 500 million people speaking Spanish, Italian, German, French, Arabic, all these languages, imagine how different India would be. Not only would it be a powerhouse, people would know about different countries, they would stop having prejudices, they would start looking at the world as one place, but look at the opportunities that would open. So what I want Europe to do is, all the Europeans have great cultural centers. You have Wallenstrasse, you have Goethe, which is Max Muller, you have the Institute Cervantes, which you have the Dante Alighieri Center, you have all of them here. We should work with them to make sure that more Indians learn foreign languages. This is something which is counterintuitive to what ICCR has been doing up till now. But I feel that this is something which will go a long way in increasing India's collaboration with the rest of the world. With this, I will stop. Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be at this conference, and I'm hoping to discuss more if people have questions on this issue. Thank you very much.